Hi there, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. I truly believe that sometimes a single insight can completely change your business directions and allow you to achieve your business goals. In this episode, I interview Mark Davis. Mark is the director of Abundance International. His organization runs multiple orphanages in Ukraine. Recently he's been on all major news networks in the US, such as CNN, Fox, CNBC, MSNBC. Mark is also author of How to Lead in Crisis. We had a discussion on various leadership challenges around the orphanage. Mark provided details on a ground level situation, and he also shared insight on the leadership challenges that he's dealing with. If you are a business leader, you can relate to some of the extreme challenges Mark is dealing with. Even though your challenges may not be the same level as Mark's are, but leadership trait, personality, and a mindset that are required to deal with the challenges are very similar. So Mark's team is doing great work. If you'd like to connect with Mark, I have included the links in a video as well. And before we go, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Your feedback is always welcome. Thank you. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today my guest is Mark Davis. Mark is the author of How to Lead in a Crisis, but more importantly, the work you're doing in the market in Ukraine is also important with that the current time. It's issues that we up against and the war going on there. So I'm looking forward to learning from you. Looking forward to a discussion. Mark, thank you so much for your time today.
No, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to share more of the news of what's going on in Ukraine and, of course, the work we're doing and obviously a lot of the lessons we've had to learn in a new world that didn't exist very recently ago.
Okay. So I definitely want to talk about your book, but let's talk about Ukraine first. How you got
Sure.
involved and the work you've been doing and what's reality going on there in the country.
Well, I had a computer leasing company, and I had actually just had family in Ukraine. So one time I was in Ukraine a little over a decade ago, and I had a nonprofit corporation. We decided to ask the question, what can we do to give back to the community? So literally walked into an orphanage and just said, what do you guys need? And, they go, who are you? And I go, I don't know. We just want to see if we can help. And it developed this relationship of trust we built between the two of us, where then we started increasing the size of the projects we're doing for this orphanage in the town of Mykolaiv, Ukraine, where we ended up building an ICU unit, birthing center. We started providing food, diapers, medicines, and I kept then going back to my clientele, my customer base, and saying, hey, can you guys chip in and help? And fortunately, I had formed the 501c3 already at that point for another project that obviously the orphanage has taken over, and it is what the nonprofit's all about today. But we went on to adopt another orphanage in the neighboring city of Kherson, and then this is the 30,000 foot view of it. When the war started, we really put the word out, got on a lot of national, international media, and we're now, within 4 weeks, we went from the 200 children we were helping to over 1,000, and looking to expand the reach even more, set up distribution centers, warehouses, and what we can do to take care of the kids who couldn't get out of the country.
Mm-hmm. So before we could talk about our orphanage, Mark, let's talk about that situation in the ground. I'm sure it's not that, I'm not sure if it's a picture that painted by the media is the right picture. What you see on the ground level, what's going on, if you just give us, our audience, a little bit summary of what's, how you see it, and maybe give us a little bit perspective on that, what are we missing from that situation?
Well, I think perspective is all you're missing. The photos are real. There is horror happening, war scale, World War II-esque, complete horror happening in pockets of the country. It's not everywhere, but it's certainly what you have seen is real. But keep in mind, my brother was career military and involved in many of the different things we've had over the last 30 years as a country. And he was on the ground in Baghdad when they pulled the statue down. But he says what people don't realize is when there's conflicts and war, it's usually isolated to a couple of neighborhoods where the intensity of the fighting is going on, where the rest of the country may be at peace, going to the coffee shop and driving to the grocery store. And so you have a little bit of a hybrid in Ukraine. The city I was in, Mykolaiv, is very hotly contested. The Russians want it badly. They took the neighboring city of Kherson, and they wanted that path to get to Odessa, which was right through my town of Mykolaiv. So from day 3 of the conflict, we were hearing air raid sirens 2-3 times a day. We would hear the sounds of bombs, artillery fire. I didn't personally see soldiers or tanks, But in my town, we, are still a hot spot, and places, the hotel I'd stayed at when I first came to Ukraine 16 years ago got bombed, and you're looking at going like, I was in that room that's now rubble. The place where we go in the city center where they'd have the festivals and all the Christmas festivities and everything. The central building is the one that got the missile right through it, and 75 people were dead instantly, and another 40 or 50 injured. And I'm going, that was right there. This is my neighborhood. And then the orphanage that we'd supported and sponsored there in Mykolaiv had, I'd already sworn they're not going to be impacted. They're far away. They're on the other side of town. They're not a target. Even if they just started throwing bombs at Mykolaiv, they're just not, they're on the other side of town. Yeah. Sure enough, 3 days ago, they get a missile that hits their playground, and it blows out windows on one side of the building. Now, we'd already moved the kids to another part of the country, but people say, is it safe? Well, no place is entirely safe. Your odds of actually getting hit are probably low, but you cannot go anywhere in the country and not tangibly feel the presence and impact of the war. Everywhere you drive, every 2 miles, there's another checkpoint with military guys saying, let me show you your passports, let me search your vehicle. And even when we went to the towns closer to the west, to Vinnytsia, large city halfway between Kyiv and Lviv, every day we were hearing 3 or 4 times a day, we're hearing the bomb sirens, and the buildings that had any government association at all. I mean, the Department of Motor Vehicles, they had sandbags loaded up to the first floor of the building all around it, just thinking that they could be a target. So then every night is curfew. So think about write your questions down. I got a few more stories to tell you, but think about what you want to ask me next. But the curfew thing was a big deal. And what they wanted to do when they was originally 10 p.m., everybody, all lights had to be out. People had to be indoors. And when I mean all lights out, I mean like World War II dark city, so that an airplane couldn't even see there was a city below. Dark. Wow. Everything dark. Street lights out, signs. Nobody could have a light in their house that would glow out their window. And they moved that down to 8 p.m. And so one time, what I was doing is my office in Mykolaiv is a fairly good sized office. It's probably over 1,000 square feet. We've got a big meeting room. I've got a full kitchen, bath, and shower. So it's a big office. So I was staying in there for sleeping at night on several occasions. Well, it's also part of the big building that was also the main hotel in town on the city center. And they had, I didn't know this, but on the other side, they had blocked off the entrance physically to get in. So I'm going in thinking I'm going to make curfew one time. I'm going to get in, sleep in my office after I spent time taking care of everybody else. And I could not get in. And now it's like 10:05. And I'm like, holy crap, the city is dead dark. And they just have rotations of police scouring, making sure everybody's in. And I have no choice. I got to drive back to my apartment. So I start driving with my lights off, which is hard to see. No, you can't, there's no street lights, you can't see anything. So and then I flick them on once in a while to make sure I'm not going to hit anything. Sure enough, a police sees me several blocks, and he comes racing up, pulls me over. And they had already made it publicly known that anybody up after curfew, you're going to be treated as if you're an enemy combatant.
Wow. So
they get out of the car, 4 of these guys with AK-47s, and they're all pointing at me, yelling in Russian. Now, I know that they're Ukrainian soldiers. So at the end of the day, they're friendlies to me, but they're doing their job. And so I am flat like this on my face on the street with my hands going like, guys, I'm cool. It's cool. Let me tell you who I am. And of course, they could tell I spoke English. They had to wait to call in somebody else who spoke English. And the guy's like, get off the ground. You're fine. Just, let's get you back to your apartment and go to sleep. But, this was I was there for the first 42 days of the war and traveling, because we had to go now expand our reach to find other orphanages that needed help. And we just kept growing in towards of what we were doing. So those are the stories of how I saw the evidence of the war. Plus 2 times I crossed the border to bring refugees out. And one of the times was at the peak when most of the millions of guys were getting out, and people in car lines who were sitting for 2 days, having to try to wait to get through the line. I was part of that. Then the second time I went through, there were no lines. All of it had calmed down. So I've seen a little bit of everything. And I'm very grateful I never saw enemy soldiers, or I never saw active firefights in front of my face. But it's tragic because it's an enormous country. It's bigger than the state of Texas. It's an enormous real estate piece of country. And to see that no matter where you travel, even where it's technically safe, the effects of war are everywhere. And your heart goes out to people. And, certainly as the pressure goes from one city to another, people are having to move to try to get to safer parts of the country. And it's just daily life. And I don't know when it's going to let up.
Wow. Yeah, it's just heartwarming to hear that kind of stories. So people on the ground, people losing families, lives there. How people holding up, Mark, during this time? People still have a hope. They're still, I know they're fighting for the country, they're fighting for the lives, they're fighting for the loved ones. How they're holding up? What's the sentiment on the ground that listen, we gotta fight to the end, or there's gonna be talks in between somewhere. So how's spirit there?
It varies. You have a lot of people that are angry. You have a lot of people there watching the news like you guys are, some of them aren't, and so it's sort of like one of the things we'll get into leadership is that under pressure, who you really are comes out. And so there are stories, amazing stories I have of people who then, when we would tell them we're trying to help the orphanage, they would go out of their way. Look, I've been waiting in line an hour, but take my place. Please come ahead. Let me help you. One time we were at the hospital delivering medicine, and the military was there, and who are these guys? Because they were giving us preferential treatment. We're sitting there trying to deliver medicine to these guys, and they said we're with the orphanage, and they go, hey, just a second. They go to the back of their vehicle and they bring us 200 pounds of potatoes. Say, please give this to the orphanage to take this, and that's out of their rations. And so you see little signs of. We had pharmacies. We had to get special medicines for some kids, and the pharmacies are closed. They called them. The guy came in and opened it just for us. We had gas stations where they were out of gas to the public, but they had little reserves, and they said, we'll open it for you guys for the children's hospital. The ambulances can have gas. So you see that. And on the other side, you also see what bad elements come out of people under pressure. A lot of the humanitarian aid is being taken by some of these rich guys who are reselling it in their stores. They got it for free and they're selling it to people, and they're capitalizing, taking advantage of this in the most immoral way. And other signs that, the other part of it, I can't blame people, but it's still sad to see, is as people moved west, people who had apartments to rent or houses to rent jacked the price up to levels where nobody could afford there. And because they were getting it, people were desperate, they're moving out. And so you see people taking advantage of that. So there's good parts that come out in people where people, even in crisis, want to help, and other people who take advantage of the situation, perhaps in an immoral way where you're just going, I wish that wasn't the case.
Wow. Okay. So are you still able to travel back and forth from Ukraine? Or because
I'm going back. I'm actually in Las Vegas right now. I had to come here because the bank I have, we've taken in donation checks, and they wouldn't let me deposit some of them because it was written out incorrectly based on the DBA to the checking account, and I literally had to go back and open a new account and file DBAs, and I had to leave a power of attorney to my CPA, so in the future I don't have to come back, but I literally had to leave for some stupid ass shit like this to come take care of it. So it's done, and in 2 days I'm heading back overseas again. But as an American, it's very easy with a passport to travel. You can you can't land in Ukraine because all the airports, they bomb the runways, but you can go into Warsaw. You can go into, I was going in and out of Bucharest, Romania, and then just drive right in. My car is waiting for me in Bucharest, so when I go back, that's what I'm going to do, and then it's about 4 hours across back into Ukraine.
Wow. So let's talk about the orphanage challenges that your team is dealing with. So how big is the orphanage? Grew. You were doing this work before the war happened, right? And then you saw the war happening. So how big it grew, and what kind of challenges you were up against?
Thank you for those questions and the care and concern. And by the way, anybody listening to this, we've really done a great job of keeping everybody updated at abundanceinternational.org, both in terms of the news bits as I visit a place, we record it, we post, we let people see what we're doing in real time. You can also go back 10 years and see what we've been doing for the last 10 years, all the different projects. So our presence there is not new, and it's not going to end after the war. It's just, this is our heart. This is what we've been doing. And we've had a lot of honors. The Golden Knights here in Las Vegas honored me as the hero of the night, and they did a big thing in the game. And I was just on the local TV set yesterday. They figured while I'm in town, they wanted to get me on stage. So I've had a lot of honors and accolades and donations. And the nice part about it, if you can appreciate this, in a time of war, some of the first things that go down is they cut off the cell phones and they try to disrupt internet and banking. And so fortunately, most of that stayed open. So I'm able to take the donation money and wire it directly where it needs to go, or use the debit card and buy the truckload of groceries. So donations are appreciated there. But here's what's changed and what has really happened because of the war. The disruption of different kinds of supplies are different for every orphanage. So I'll give you several different examples. Okay. One of them is one orphanage found out that the government subsidies for cleaning materials and was cut off. So we had to provide them with everything from shampoo, toothpaste, laundry soap, dishwashing soap, floor cleaning stuff, all these kind of things. There was their big deal. Another one, they weren't getting meat, they weren't getting proteins. And the problem was it was also not available in the stores. Like for instance, 4 of the orphanages that we deal with are now behind enemy lines. And so how do you help them, right? So we ended up, first of all, we were able to get money to the director. And even though her phone was cut off, we were able to get through WhatsApp or other things and say, what do you guys need? So she goes, well, we have special needs kids in this orphanage that need medicine. So again, they contacted somebody, got them to open it up, get what they needed. And then they had to go to somebody else who was given permission by the Russians to drive, and he got to make the deliveries. Another one, the grocery stores are empty. What do? It's like, well, it's an agricultural area down there in that part of the country. So we said, look, let's go to the owners of these dairy farms and the orchards and say, look, you're going to be hampered from selling for a while. Can you at least help give some of that to the kids? So now we're getting that. Another place, their issue could be something else. So everything's a little different, and we're setting up uniquely to meet needs where things have shifted and there are lack of whatever particular provision there is. In fact, next week when I go back, I'm working at setting up a warehouse distribution center so we can set up regular rotation deliveries based on the needs of the different places where we can travel around the country.
But how big is the orphanage grew? From the war, I'm sure it grew quite a bit where you were before, right? What were you dealing with?
No, that's a misperception. So there's 2 misperceptions, and let me help you with that. First, people think that there's a lot of orphans now because all the parents are dead. That's not really true. So we haven't seen an increase in numbers of kids being dropped off at the orphanages. What has happened is there's been a lot of pressure on people trying to get the kids out of country. And so probably as many as 20% of the children may have been moved out of country. I honestly don't think it's even that high. And the reason is because this isn't like throwing your kids in the back of the station wagon and trying to drive across the border. You've got legal obligations about who's receiving the kids. Do they understand the medical needs? Do they understand who's the nursing care? Who's taking financial responsibility? What are the facilities like? And then you have to have this legal handoff where the kid has to be tagged and you have to do a check and somebody has to sign for them. And so this idea that you're just going to throw kids on a bus and get them over the border, Zelensky himself has said, look, we got about 2,000 missing children. And so to me, it's such a misnomer that just get the kids out. It's better that the Red Cross will pick them up. Better than that get bombed. Well, most of them are not getting bombed. I haven't had any orphanage child harmed or injured over military explosions. Like I said, we had one where the windows got blown out, and the same thing happened up in the capital city. One of the orphanages, an inerrant missile hit in the playground, but nobody was injured. So in many cases, because of the special needs, the handicap needs, all that kind of stuff, sometimes it's better to either have them where they are or just move them. Some are moving to basements. I've got a video where the entire basement is now, it's 6 rooms that I'm sure prior to this war was just dirt floors underneath the building that they've made into a city where they got 100 kids. They got mattresses laid out everywhere to sleep at night, playrooms over here, little buckets for toilets that when the air raid sirens go off, all these kids go down, and that's where they live for half the day sometimes. So everything we're just making it up as we go. None of these systems existed a month and a half ago. And so everybody's just trying to be creative and say, there is going to be a way, there is a way, we will find a way to solve the problem. And so, no, I don't have an increase in number of orphans from the parents dying. The sad part is in many of those places where the civilian parents are dying, the children are dying too. It's a horrific situation. Those are isolated to some of those cities you've seen around Kharkov, and obviously everybody's seen some of the other places that have had horrific civilian casualties. Those kids are not making it to the other orphanages. The only thing I have seen is some of the orphanages are housing other orphanage kids. So some of the orphanages in Kharkov are just moving their kids to Dnipro, that kind of a thing.
I see. Have you heard anything about, I know Canadian Prime Minister, he announced that, we are going to take all that kids who are not doing well, they need medical help, right? So we have opened up some hospitals. I'm sure, I know that some of the kids are coming over with the families for treatment. Have you heard of that? If that's resonant with the people there, that, what Canada is doing to bring kids for treatment and the families over?
Listen, I will give a special love and shout out to Canada and the UK. They both actually created real programs to try to help people move quickly. And I've observed, because I have people who either work for me or friends or people who are associates who are all coming from Ukraine, and they're reporting back on how these application processes are going. So Canada is promising people 48-hour turnaround. You put in your application, we'll get back to you in 48 hours and what you need to do next and how that's going to go. Canada seems pretty friendly. Canada has an enormous Ukrainian population anyway. They're known for that. They have Ukrainian festivals every year. There's a part of the country there that's just a huge Ukrainian population. The UK additionally has provided for immigration, and additionally given people job visas and work and cash guarantees. They've really facilitated doing that. I have not heard as much about what you're describing, about these people proactively wanting to take orphans, because right now you still have legal process, and the department within Ukraine is not open for trying to legally process orphans. They have other things to do. So if they're taking them, I'm just curious who's giving them.
I see.
Who's giving these kids to somebody else. So I think that Canada as a government is probably the most competent to be able to say we can't physically take care of these. I know Germany's trying to do the same thing. I personally am not aware of any orphanage that has handed their child off to another government to say they're all yours now. It's way more complicated than that. Although I believe Canada and Germany and the UK could do it, I am not personally aware of an orphanage who has made that pass off happen. There's a lot of happy talk. There's a lot of political sound bites. And listen, I'm an American, but I'm going to say the America is the worst. It's baloney. It is absolute crap. When they say they're going to allow for 100,000 immigrants, all they're doing is adding that to the list on this refugee visa program, which is backlogged 3 years because they're still processing Afghan refugees. It's crap. For them to say they're going to open themselves up to another 100,000, good. What are you going to do for the next 3 years until your number comes up? It's crap. It's just political, happy, joy. It sounds good, soundbite stuff. I'm not aware of anybody who's done that. The only people I know that are getting in either already have family here, or they try to sneak across the border out of Mexico, which I know people who did it. They made that work. So to me, you've got to really be aware of everybody is trying to politically take advantage of this and sound good. And what is actually happening is probably very different. Unfortunately.
No, I saw in the news, Canadian Prime Minister mentioning that we've taken up 14,000 so far people from Ukraine. So I'm not sure these were. I know we announced two programs. One was we will take the kids need medical attentions. We'll bring them to our sick children hospital. Obviously, the family is going to come with it. And the second program was we'll bring some people over. We'll open up, make it easy for people to come. So number I heard was 14K. I don't know which program that was
great.
For. That's what I heard for 14K. That's what it was shown in the news. So just wanted to run by you.
Listen, and when you hear that number and you think they're bragging about 14,000, you got to have some respect for Poland, which has taken in 2 million. Literally taken in 2 million. So God bless you for 14,000. We'll pat you on the back. But man, my hat goes off to Poland, man. They just opened their doors and they just kept taking them until they finally said we have to shut the valve. But that was like after 2 million. 2 million. Think about the population of your city. That's the population of like 10 average cities in most parts of the world. And they took them all in and are still trying to accommodate them. So I hope that the numbers that these countries are bragging about go a lot bigger than just 14,000.
So is that a first option, Poland? What's the other countries around that taking people in?
Poland is no longer an option. They had to shut it off. They really got capped. They literally could not handle and take care of people effectively any past whatever the million mark was or whatever the numbers they took. So around there you have Moldova. Don't go to Moldova. There's 1,200 Russian soldiers there. It's not pleasant. It's a very impoverished country, and there's a lot of bandits and ilk in Moldova. So it's not really an option. It's a little sliver of land that is just sort of in the middle of nowhere. Romania is a fantastic choice. Very warm, welcoming people. It's an EU country. It's not quite as affluent as many European countries, probably just a little below Poland, but they're doing fine. They're doing economically fine. And the people there really opened up their hearts to Ukrainians. And I know people who went to the Ukrainian embassy in Bucharest, and they were able to get free apartments for life. I mean, there's no limit to it. Hey, stay as long as you want, just pay the electric bill. And they're nice apartments. So people are opening their homes. They're being taken care of. I'd say Romania is probably the best place right now. Then past that, I've got other people who've just gone ahead and gone to Europe because the Ukrainians are part of the Schengen visa systems. They can go into Europe if they want. It's just expensive. You know, so I got people in Vienna, and I'm like, wow, how'd you get to Vienna? She's going, yeah, but I need work. What do you got for me? You know, so some of my former employees. So I think anywhere in the EU you can find those, but you got to first go to your embassy. And pleasantly surprisingly, the Ukrainian embassies have been aggressively trying to take care of people in a very proactive way that impresses me. I really didn't think they would be that good. They're actually handling people better outside of Ukraine than they did when they're in Ukraine. So it's been pretty impressive to see.
So people who are watching, you know, business leaders are, you know, we have, especially in Canada, you know, what can we, you know, first of all, let's, you know, these people not involved, you know, the level you are involved in that, you know, nobody's involved, you know, but they're building their companies, they you know, we just coming out of COVID. What can they learn from that, you know, especially, let's talk about the leadership, you know, it's you know, you were booking a leadership in a crisis, you know, definitely the crisis you're up against is that nobody ever imagined, nobody ever seen it, you know, that's the worst form of crisis you can think about.
Thanks.
What can these people learn from it? You know, anything they can draw for their personal experience and take a perspective from your book.
Of course, I appreciate that. And I will do one more plug for abundanceinternational.org. Please stay connected. If you donate anything at the PayPal link, you'll be on our email list, and we'll be able to let you know what's going on there. And if there's an opportunity, if your company does corporate sponsorships, we would love to be a cause to partner with you on being that beneficiary. Now, I wrote the book, How to Lead in Crisis, 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago, because of the COVID thing. And I just saw the way people were melting down, getting emotional, and they were just, every day it was a ping pong ball of, they were just responding to whatever was the newest thing on the news. I'm going, that's ridiculous, people. You gotta lead, you know? And so the premise of the book had three proponents to it. And honestly, it's only about 120 pages. It was a quick read. I just wanted to get something out to the world. And it goes on the premise of, one, you gotta be the calm in the storm, the voice of reason, and you got to have a lead to a vision to the future. And so in each of those, I gave some great basic stuff about emotional management, about leadership, about who you're trying to influence, how you can influence them, and all of these things. And by the way, I'm a pastor's kid. So my dad used to tell me, he says, Mark, in all my career as a pastor, I never wanted to do a sermon on patience, because I've learned whatever you're going to do a sermon on, God will test you before the sermon to make sure you've learned the lessons. And he doesn't want to learn lessons in patience. Well, here it is. I wrote this book on how to lead in crisis. Little did I know I'd be in the middle of this situation. But so many things applied. Let me share some examples. In fact, even before I get into the example from the book, there's one of the decisions that I had to make, and this is a leadership move. I'm very proud of this, and I want you guys to listen to this as well. I knew the war was coming back in November, and I have, like I said, I have friends, and who had various levels of information in different places, and all were saying the same thing. This is not like the previous exercises. You know, they're coming, and I'm sitting here with a dozen employees in Ukraine, family, friends in Ukraine. I lived there 8, 9, 10 months of the year, probably 11 months of last year. I love it. It's my heart. And so to me, when I had to make the decision, everybody was saying, get out, I had to see, I made a decision to stay for three reasons. One is I personally, morally, ethically couldn't take the thought of my sitting on a big, fat, comfy couch back in the US, watching on a big screen TV while all the people I love and are responsible for are having to go through this. You know, that's just not right. The second thing is I had to look at this from a perspective of history. So I went a year ahead and I said, in a year from now, how would I like to behave today? So when I look back, I could say, I'm really proud of what I did. And that helps you kind of suck up and get through the fear, because there was a lot of fear going on, and legitimate fear. There should be some healthy fear when consequences could be life and death. It's healthy, but you got to process it and give it perspective. And I wanted to say, a year from now, looking back, I want to feel proud of the decisions I made. And the third thing that that helped me in this is I felt like, maybe there's a reason I'm there for just a time as this, for such a time as this. Maybe there's something I'm supposed to do that's going to help make a difference here. So I want to have what I call radical awareness. Eyes open. What's going on? Where am I supposed to fit in? What am I supposed to touch? What am I supposed to do? I had guys telling me, because I do a lot of teaching on masculinity, and I have these guys say, Mark, if you're a real man, you should be grabbing a gun to go to the front lines. Okay. I go, well, look, I'm not trained in that, and second of all, if I actually did that, then I'm abandoning everything all these kids that I'm helping. And so I'm not serving my own purpose. So you have to look at, what are you supposed to do? Now, understand that prior to this, the reason I had a business in Ukraine, it was a travel-based business. I had a registered travel agency. I had customers coming over, and it wasn't a lot. I lived an entrepreneur lifestyle. Okay, I had like 110 clients coming a year. They spent $5,000. We spent a week there. It was fantastic, and I got to live where I wanted to live. And the company was, doing $800,000 a year. Wasn't getting anybody rich, but I loved my life. It was where I wanted to be. Immediately, that company is dead when the first bombs hit and blow up the airport. Nobody's coming to Ukraine. And so in that instant, I literally day one, I'm a little shocked. We heard the explosions. We know the airport's gone. And I had a friend call me up and say, what's going on, Mark? And well, I got my eyes open, because this one's gone. I said, the only thing I can figure to do right now is I want to, like we've always for 10 years been taking care of these orphanages as a love project, just as sort of, we didn't take salaries from it. We were just doing it as giving back to the community. It was our love project. And I said, I'm just going to focus on trying to take care of these kids. And he says, well, tell you what, let's do this together. Let me help you. He put his PR agent assigned to me, and she, within 12 hours, had me on CNN, Fox, NBC, all these places, and I was just telling the story. And in the course of about 10 days, we raised $500,000. Wow. And so clearly then it became very obvious to me, this is why I was here. And so not only did we immediately get to work at trying to take care of the orphanages that we were serving for the past 8 or 10 years, then we said, let's find out what the others need. And we started networking. Who do you know, other directors? And we got a list of 146 orphanages. We started trying to call. Nobody's answering the front desk during war. So we're saying, who do you know? What's their cell phone number? And sometimes we drove up there, knocked on the door and said, hey, we're trying to help. What do you guys need? They got 50 kids back there. And they're like, yeah. And so we loaded things up. So it just became, then at that point, saying, okay, then if I'm here for this, then, let's just do it. And it helps you get past the fears and all the things, what else is going on. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. Don't let the smoke of all of the media, which wants to stir up your emotions, get a hold of you. I have somebody, I don't watch TV. I have somebody who sends me the highlights of what I need to pay attention to. I can read it in 10 minutes. And now anybody has a conversation, they go, yeah, I already know. So I don't need to emotionally bask myself in that frenzy, because I can't change it. I can't control it. What can I do? Focus on that. So that was the first aspect of leadership that I felt like, when you get thrown against something that's out of your control, and you've seen other companies do this, whether it was Tylenol, where they're, they had laced bottles and they had to respond to it. Every company is going to have some kind of crisis. And so how can you step above it for a little bit and ask those questions to say, in a year from now, how could I look back on this and be proud of what I did? And if I'm here for leadership at this moment in time, there's got to be a reason for that. Give it some purpose. And I think those perspectives really help when a crisis hits.
Those three items you mentioned, very interesting, Mark. I'm sure those are three important one, and business leaders always deal with one of the, so when I'm just a quickly summary, the first was simply the perspective, right? And the second one was,
Okay, let's recap. There's
Okay.
two sets of three.
Okay.
The book set of three I'll get to next.
Okay.
But my first decision about immediately assessing what I call radical awareness. It's like it hits you, and it's the shock. And how do you effectively manage yourself and make good decisions when you're freaked the hell out in the shock moment?
Okay.
And that's where I said, my first decision was, it's like, I'm here as leader for a reason. It would be irresponsible for me just to conveniently pull myself out and be sitting on a couch watching on a big screen while my people were dealing with crisis. I'm the leader. I will be at the front of this. I will be in it, and I'm not going to try to retreat. And this is one of the things they love about Zelensky. So many other leaders, as soon as the crisis comes, what do? They pack their bags, they take their billions, they on a private jet, and they're out of the country, right? So first thing is, you're the leader. You're leading somebody. Be present, show up, be in the front of it. Don't try to back away from it. Be in the front of it. Second thing is, have a perspective. Look a year from now. How do you want to look back? So that's the second thing. So one, be the leader, be in the front of it. Second thing is have a historic perspective while you're in it. Think about a year from now. How do I want to be proud of myself? And then the third thing is realize there's a sense of destiny. That if you're there right now at this moment, it's because there's something you're supposed to do. And feel that sense of destiny and purpose, and look for it. Okay, then why am I here right now? Why am I right here right now in this crisis? It's because I was entrusted by God to be able to do something helpful and purposeful in the middle of this at this time in history. So those are the three things to. If you had a little flashcard, you go, my God, my moment's here. What did Mark say? Those are the three perspectives. I think they're going to anchor you at that moment. To be able to say, okay, the crisis isn't going to overwhelm me. I'm going to have perspective. I'm going to face this. And you will come across, and people will just lean on you and just go, thank God somebody is solid here. Yeah.
I think those are very critical one, all three of them. But on emotional level, Mark, how do you stay grounded? Definitely it's overwhelming. How do you keep yourself calm, and you can still think and rational even though you're going through it? So how do you push that? There's a reason that God put you in that situation, but you still gotta stay calm and still gotta stay grounded when you're going through this process. So what do you do, and how do you stay in that state?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. There's a little bit of what my friend Dr. Robert Glover wrote, the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, and he calls this self-soothing. At some point you have to calm yourself. You got to soothe yourself. And I think the perspective of the first three will take you 80% of the way there. You're going to have a good perspective. But I think the other thing is, that's good for the initial blast, but to maintain that state on a daily basis when you're dealing with the crisis, one, find out what it takes for you to keep yourself in a good state. Probably the most important job of a leader is to encourage yourself. So for me, every morning I start off with, this is going to sound embarrassingly simple, but I start off with a YouTube video where I'll watch one of these motivational videos, and just something encouraging. I'll listen to Les Brown. I'll listen to, whoever else, Ed Milet. I'll listen to different people that just elevate my thinking and anchor myself. Second thing is, you try to have, it's my daily routines. And second thing, I have a gratitude practice, because I think whatever you're grateful for, you attract more of in your life. But the third thing is I do something called micro visualizations, where I try to imagine what's going to happen in my day, and I want to imagine it going absolutely as best as possible. And that gives me a positive momentum to look forward to something in each day. And sometimes, as silly as it is, a lot of the stuff I do is like, you look at the pictures, it's like I'm carrying a box of bananas or something into an orphanage. It's not glamorous. There's nothing glamorous about the dirt work sometimes. But to have a perspective saying, I can't wait to have that feeling, that I'm one that showed up. While other people are sitting on their couch, or other people ran out of the country, I showed up. And I can't wait to have that feeling of delivering it, seeing their excitement, feeling the energy of their gratitude, because they always are. They're so thankful. And you find ways to look forward to something in the middle of the crisis that is going to fill you in a good way, and you can look forward to it. The other thing is to be gentle with yourself in understanding. What I found is, when I came here to America, and I've been here 3 days, and I got to leave in 2 more days, but what happened to me was I had an emotional letdown. And so what happens is you have to emotionally understand in a crisis, you're intentionally for a season holding back a lot of response, because as a normal human being, you should cry at what's going on. You should be furious. You should be freaked the shit out. You should, and you don't have the luxury. And so what you tell yourself is, I know at some point I'm going to break. Some point I'm going to need a vacation. Some point my nerves are going to need to be refreshed. Some point I'm going to really cry and mourn over the loss, the sadness of everything that's represented here. I don't have that luxury now. And if you can be honest with yourself in that, I think it's healthy, because it's not denying it. You know good and damn well this is horrific.
Yeah.
You know it's taking a toll on you. But you don't have the luxury as the leader, and you're not going to be any good to anybody else if you shrivel up and you're just an emotional basket case. And I found this very sad. This is just the sad part of leadership, guys. And I can't soft play this at all. Is the sad part of leadership is you don't get the luxury to bask in the pain and the emotion that you really want to and you need to. And because I remember doing this one time to some people close to me, where I was just starting to melt down, and it freaked the shit out of them. Because they're going, if my leader's having a meltdown, if he's freaking out, I got no stability, I got no rock, I don't know, then where's my center, right?
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that during a time as this, you have to learn how to process it privately, or find somebody in your life, whether it's a significant other, a close, intimate friend, where you have that one person you can unload to. I even think of Napoleon was famous for the fact that Josephine would always be waiting for him in the tent, the military command tent, when he'd come back from the battlefield. And he would want that time just to cry on her and unload and relinquish, the energy of that. And, find a person in your life you can at least talk to, but you realize to the general public and to who you are, you don't have the luxury of doing that. And they want me to. Everybody, there's a part of people they want me, they want to understand that I feel the horror, I feel the pain. I do. And it's hard for me not to get saturated into it. But as much as I do, it also doesn't serve people as well. So I'm not hard ass, I'm not numb to it. And I know at some point I'm going to need to recover and relax, but that time is not now. I got to go right back into it next week and set up distribution centers, and know I'm going to be hearing sound sirens, and know there's going to be more horrific stories, and I've got to be focused on what I can control. So I think there's going to be, as Solomon once said in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for sorrow, a time for laughter. And I think you just have to realize this is the season to go to war. Yeah.
Does faith play a role in that? Does faith help you get through some of that stuff?
Absolutely. You have to have, this is where faith at the beginning had the belief that I'm here for a reason, that God knew I was capable. He trusted me. He believed in me to say, you're the man for the hour. I've been preparing you for a long time. And you got to think about that. I have been prepared for a long time. I started the nonprofit, actually was formed in 2005. We started doing this full-time work with these orphanages over a decade ago. And so we've had the nonprofit. We've been doing work with the orphanages. We know what they need. We've been doing all kinds of work for them. So at the time when the crisis hits, I don't even know how many other people are possibly even qualified to be able to dive in and say, I know what to do. Plus I've been, like I said, I wrote the book on how to lead in crisis. So I think, you have to have faith in God, has been knowing this was going to come, that you're there. And so in that, I don't want to say that I'm bulletproof, but I feel like, he's not throwing me in the middle of this to immediately have me be eaten by the wolves. So I've never really feared the war. I've never feared getting bombed. Although I was terrified driving through Moldova. That's some pretty scary shit countryside in the middle of the night. I'm just telling you. But other than that, I think that faith is a big part of it. You feel like somebody's got your back who's bigger than you.
Well, you're doing God's work there. There's no better service than a service to other humans. And you're doing amazing work at that. There's these kids need you, the people around you need you, and you're doing amazing work there.
Thanks.
So how could business leader be any help to you? How could, I definitely want to list all the sources where they can go donate. How many, different ways they can help you, and what can we do to help you move forward with your mission?
I really appreciate that. And again, like I've said, I've tried to make everything simple. Just abundanceinternational.org. There's a place to donate there. They can give cyber currency, PayPal, debit cards, write a paper check. And I think that personally doing that as a leader, to say I'm contributing to this helps. As a company owner, to put it out, hey, here's a cause we believe in. And I've had, God bless it, Fidelity Financial and Schwab have both put it out to their groups that they support us. And so we just started getting checks from people who have accounts there and they wanted to give a little bit of their accounts. Some are just $50, you know, some are $1,000, $2,000, but being recommended as a preferred charity helps. It was interesting. I was on CNN and no, I'm sorry, the Today Show. It was on the Today Show. And then they put out a list of recommended charities that they want to, if you want to support Ukraine. I'm going, you had me as a guest on the show. Why am I not on your list of recommended charities? So we had to make a phone call, you know, come on, guys. Yeah. And so I think that if you can endorse Abundance International, know that, you know, we're legitimate. We're a 501c3. We have the backing of, we even have one of the parliamentary leaders of Ukraine said, thank you on behalf of Ukraine for what we're doing for the children there. It's a good cause. We're legit. We're part of, all the different Guide Star, all those other different endorsements. So recommending us and giving yourself would be greatly appreciated. The second thing as a leader is I think it makes a statement to your people that you should always have a charitable element to everything you're doing. Of course. Because it shows that you care. It's just, and this is one of the things, I didn't intentionally do this, but on my main travel website, there's always been a place to give to the orphans. And so I think there's a part of the things like we have a heart. We want to give back to the world, to the community, you know, that gives to us. And I think there's a part of a principle that says we're that kind of a pay it forward thing, to gratitude, you know, the principle of tithing, I guess you would say. But even as a business, you could show you have a philanthropic element to your business. I think just helps you. And listen, I would be honored, and I've done this before. I had like one of the churches wanted to support us, which is really bizarre because they need their people to give to them, not to me. Yeah. But they actually had me come in on a video camera in front of their whole congregation to do a report live, you know, from Ukraine. And if there's a way I can support you, do a special video to your people, or do a leadership talk, you know, and we haven't even covered, we don't have time anymore. I haven't even covered the principles of the book. But I will say this, there's a two-star general in the Army who got a copy of it, and she says it's now mandatory reading for all the officers in my command. So there's some good stuff, even though it's a short book. I think that's very helpful to you, and you may want to get the book out to your other people. You can just find that on Amazon.com.
Yeah, I'm going to include a link below the video as well. People can click a button. You know, definitely recommend. I looked at it just like, you know, a couple of chapters. You know, I haven't received my physical copy yet. But amazing book. So definitely I will recommend all business leaders to, you know, share the book with your teams, you know, use the book as a training people.
There you go. You know, that'd be a new element for me. I would be honored if there's some time where I could even do a session for your people on this kind of topic. And I'm sure they'd love to hear the stories like this as well. So do a double whammy. Give me as a speaker. Even if I chime in on video live from Ukraine, I could do a little leadership talk. And then help some of that money go towards the work we're doing here with the orphans. I would love to do this. So it's kind of an honor for me to talk to other business leaders and to see if there's an opportunity for me to speak to your people. It would be that'd be cool. Honestly, I would love that. That would really fire me up.
So the best way to help people is just charity to give money on a website, or is different other ways they can you know help as any other form they can help your people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Typically, the most common things I'm asked for outside of just giving. You know, because we can't deal with the giving right now. We can take what we need. Is people say, how can I come over there? Well, you can't even land at the airports right now. So you'd have to come with another group. And I have some people doing that. Some are paramilitary. So it's kind of hard to get boots on the ground in Ukraine to help right now. But I anticipate that day will come. And so just staying in touch with us. We'll let you know that time. Other people say, well, what do you guys need? Can we send you? And people want to give things like, in their mind, they're thinking blankets and kids' clothing and toys. Yeah. It's not as practical right now. You know, get back to a little more time of prosperity. Maybe we'll replace the blankets with new blankets and stuff. But they have those things right now. You know, we just need to make sure they're getting the stuff that's critical. If you're looking at, you know, what is it, Aslow's hierarchy of needs, we're a little higher than toys right now, what we're trying to deliver to these guys. So that day will come. The third thing people are asking me about, aside from monetary, is like, can we adopt these kids? And right now there's no legal way to do it because that department is shut down. They're just not even operating right now. But I have an entire group. If it is of interest to you and you'd like to adopt an orphan, go to the contact page at abundanceinternational.org and just write adoption on there and send a note. I will include you in the group. We have a whole group right now in one of these WhatsApp group or something else where several either both attorneys, people who've adopted from Ukraine in the past, are following it. And as soon as that door opens, they're going to tell everybody how to do it. So if adoption is something you're interested in, we'll at least get you into there so you can find out first how to make that happen.
Wow, very interesting. Definitely. I'm going to include a link to all those pages that you mentioned just below the video as well. People can click a link and just
Awesome.
go at it. But, business leaders, the work you do in the market, can't thank you enough. It just, the best human service you can deliver as a human, to solve, another human being, you taking care of little kids. What age these kids are, Mark? I didn't ask you this before. So what is the age group you're dealing with there?
Yeah, let me explain a little bit about the orphanages. The orphanages that I have for the last decade to work with are always 0 to 4 years old. They've been what they call the baby houses. Orphanages in Ukraine, then a second group are then from 5 years old to 16. They don't have anything over 16. They go into the community in different ways. And so currently we have now expanded to all orphanages, just trying to see what people need. But primarily up until now, I've been dealing with the newborn through 4 years old to make sure they get the best start in life.
Mm-hmm. Wow, amazing stuff, right? Doing a good work there, man. That's God's work. They're taking care of the souls that they can be helped themselves, right? So you're helping them
Right.
to get through that stuff. Wow,
Thank
very
you,
interesting. And so where can people connect with you? Is it on your website or is it Abundance website?
Everything. I really just recommend just keep it simple. Just abundanceinternational.org. If you want to go to the contact page, you can email me from there. If you want to see the latest videos about updates, there's a news page there. If you want to see where I've been on TV, there's a whole media page there. You can see all projects we've done in the past, and also the giving, the donation button's right up front. And there's like 4 different ways to give. So everything it's really simple. It's a very simple website, but everything is right there. And it's something too, if you want to tell your friends about it, just send them to abundanceinternational.org. I try to keep it simple there. The YouTube videos are reposted on the website. So everything's there at abundanceinternational.org, including contacting me directly. And unlike the first 2 weeks of the war, I'm actually catching up on my emails and calling people back and replying. So first 2 weeks, so I've got emails from the 27th of February. I'm going, I apologize, I haven't replied. I haven't gotten back to everybody yet. There's so many messages, and at the time I just couldn't focus on it, but I am now.
Listen, I want to acknowledge you, the work you're doing. It's amazing work. You just keep up the good work. People, they need, I'm sure those people, they can't do without you. They need your help. So just keep helping out, and I'll definitely gonna put a word out. I'm gonna include all those links and see if whatever shape or form we can help. I'm definitely trying to find a way to help. But next time you're back in the U.S., if things are a little settled, we'll talk about your book in a little more details and go through those contents as well.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your time with me, and I learned so much from you. And I definitely, the good work, man. Keep up the good work. The God put you there in a place, man. Keep up the good work.
Right on. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Hi there. Thank you so much for investing time with us and watching this video. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. For next episode, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and send your feedback. Until next time, have yourself a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.